Namaste and welcome to our channel, Indian History and Culture. One of the most defining moments in Gandhian career and the national struggle for India's liberation was the Dandi Yatra, the Salt Satyagraha, wherein Gandhiji marched from the Sabarmati Ashram to the coastal town of Dandi in the Surat district of then Bombay Presidency and today's Gujarat, picked up a fistful of salt and began the civil disobedience movement. But how did this Salt Satyagraha happen? How did this become the most defining moment in the Gandhian career? Let us know more about it. For this, let us try and go back to the year 1928, the Calcutta session of the Indian National Congress, when the Youth Brigade of the Congress led by Pandit Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose demanded that we should have Purna Swaraj, total independence. Gandhi brought in an amendment into the resolution and stated that if the British did not give dominion status to India within 1 year, then a movement would be launched for Purna Swaraj. Gandhi realized the rising tide of youth nationalism. He realized that the young leaders want more things and things which were different from the older leadership. This may perhaps bring in a wedge in the Congress leadership. So in order to ensure that the youth is not disillusioned with the Gandhian methods, he decided to make a young leader as the next president of the Congress. In 1929 Lahore session, it was Jawaharlal Nehru who was appointed as the Congress president. It was under him that the resolution of Purna Swaraj was passed, because we all know that the British Empire did not grant us dominion status in that year. And a decision was taken to launch a movement to attain that goal, with the full authority being given to Gandhiji. In the month of February of 1930, Gandhiji put 11 demands in front of Lord Irvine, the then British Governor General and Viceroy of India. And these 11 demands, called as the ultimatum to the British government, did not speak even a word about Purna Swaraj. Why so? Did Gandhi not want Purna Swaraj? Was he trying to bring out a compromise with the imperial administration? The answer is no. He realized that even though he has gone with the youth leaders' demands of Purna Swaraj, there were a few moderates within the Congress who were not happy with this radical stand that Gandhi had endorsed. So in order to ensure that the moderates are also taken together in this freedom struggle, he wanted to convince the moderate leadership by putting very moderate and liberal demands in these 11 points. When Lord Irvine rejected them, the moderates also came to a conclusion that perhaps Purna Swaraj is our only way out. In the month of March, Gandhiji decided that it was through Salt Satyagraha that the movement would be launched. On the 12th of March, Gandhiji decided that he, along with 78 members of his Sabarmati Ashram, would start the historic march on foot to the coastal town of Dandi. Now, when we talk about the Dandi March, the Salt Satyagraha, there's only one name that comes in front of us. That is Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi. We don't remember Jawaharlal Nehru or Subhash Chandra Bose or Vallabhbhai Patel or Rajendra Prasad or anyone else. Now, this was a shrewd genius of Gandhi's political maneuvership. He was a leader par excellence, but at the same time, he was also a person who knew media management well. He knew that this part is going to be recorded forever in the history of India, and the limelight was to be on him. When suggested which other leaders would come with him, he simply stated that it will be the members of the Sabarmati Ashram, and handpicked 78 people. Again, media management, because he knew that when he reaches the coastal town of Dandi, there will be more than 1 lakh people who would be waiting for him. It makes a fantastic headlines, from 78 to 1 lakh plus individuals. He gave a detailed itinerary to the Bombay governor at that time, stating which route he was going to take from Sabarmati Ashram to the coastal town of Dandi, in a way challenging the British administration to arrest him, for he was going to break the salt law. He knew fully well that the British Empire could not take that gamble, thereby strengthening the image of Gandhi in the public side. He also publicized about this route in the newspapers, through media and through oral publicity means, ensuring that people would join in as he passed through different villages, and that is exactly what happened when 1 lakh people descended down on Dandi coast and Gandhiji picked that fistful of salt, declaring the beginnings of the civil disobedience movement. That was the launch of it. In fact, it is this movement which becomes a symbol of struggle throughout. This movement of Gandhi for the breaking of the salt law was compared to international events as well. Subhash Chandra Bose, his fierce critic, praised Gandhiji and compared Gandhian Salt March to the historic March on Paris of Napoleon Bonaparte. The civil disobedience movement was a more radical movement than the earlier one. Non-cooperation movement was simply not cooperating with the evildoer, with the evil system of colonialism. But civil disobedience meant that it is these laws which are going to be publicly disobeyed. No rent campaigns were launched, the forest laws were to be broken, the salt laws were to be broken, and everywhere opposition was to be openly made against every form of British colonial rule. The movement also became stronger in the tribal areas, where we see a lot many tribal groups participating in openly challenging and, more importantly, defying the forest laws set by the colonial government. The movement also witnessed a large-scale participation of women. In fact, credit goes to Gandhiji to involve women in this mass upheaval. In a traditionally patriarchal society, Gandhi was able to convince the male members of the household to let their women, their daughters, their daughter-in-laws, their wives be a part of this active struggle for liberating India from this colonial bondage. He did that by stating that Sita, the way she had played a historic role in the march of Ram against the evil force represented by Ravan, similarly, the women of India had to play that role. They had to be a part of this historic struggle, this historic march against evil. The feminists have criticized Gandhi, stating that he could have easily picked up the example of Draupadi, who was a more liberated, more independent woman coming out of the Indian epics. But he picked out Sita, a more docile, a more kind of a woman who fits into the patriarchal mold of the traditional Hindu society. But whether we agree with the critics or with the Gandhians, one point that cannot be denied is that the women did participate in large numbers in the civil disobedience movement. The British government was eventually forced to accept some concessions. Gandhiji was invited as a representative of the Congress to the Round Table Conference. We all remember that the first Round Table Conference was boycotted by the Congress during the civil disobedience movement. But in the second Round Table Conference, Gandhi did attend. On the question of separate electorates being extended to other communities within India, the Round Table Conference broke and did not come to any decisive conclusion. The foray to go to London to discuss and perhaps find a way out of this constitutional deadlock could not be achieved. Gandhi came back to India, and on the way to India, he decided to relaunch the civil disobedience movement, which had been suspended in the interim time period. The British government by now had got used to what the Gandhian methods were. They fully knew that Gandhi would eventually begin the second phase of the civil disobedience movement, and they were ready for it. So once Gandhiji declared that we need to relaunch the civil disobedience movement, the British Imperial administration got to action immediately. The second phase of the civil disobedience movement was not that much of a success. Some critics call it as an absolute failure in comparison to the stupendous heights achieved in the first phase of the struggle. Eventually, in 1934, the Congress Working Committee decided to officially end the civil disobedience movement. Now, this ending of the civil disobedience movement created dissent again within the Congress leadership. The radicalized youth of the Congress, which was inspired by the ideology of socialism that was spreading throughout the world after the success of the Soviet Union, inspired a few young members of the Congress to establish a new group within the Congress called as the Congress Socialist Party. Leaders like Jayaprakash Narayan, Acharya Narendra Dev, Achyut Patwardhan and numerous other members were associated with this CSP in the time forward. It also led to another major challenge on Gandhian leadership. The challenge came from a young leader and from a veteran leader. The challengers were Subhash Chandra Bose and Vittal Bhai Patel. And the declaration that they issued from Europe was Gandhi as a leader has failed. This brought out new questions on the Gandhian leadership and where the movement would go in future. Gandhi resigned as the primary member of the Congress. So what was the journey that would be taken by the Congress and by the Indian nation in this historic freedom struggle? More on that at a later time. Keep watching our channel, Indian History and Culture, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to it.